The boy's crush finally kisses him, but while he leans in for more, the girl's father breaks them up. Naive and ignorant, the boy smiles agreeably at the father, but before he knows it, the girl's father grabs him by his shirt and yells at him. The yelling draws the boy's guardian's attention, so she intervenes and manages to break up the interaction, despite the man cursing and threatening to sue the facility housing the boy. After the run-in with his crush's dad, the boy returns to the facility to gather his things, but before he leaves, he decides to stop by the gym. In the gym, the boy finds himself gawking at a random shirtless boy. Unfortunately for the boy, the bully catches him and mocks him for spying on his friend. Seeing as the boy doesn't give a tangible reaction to his mockery, the bully grabs the boy's hat and dares to steal it back. Instead of reacting to the bully with a reaction, the boy taunts his bully about his abusive childhood. Triggered by the boy's taunts, the bully pushes him to the wall before dragging him outside, where he strips and kicks him into a puddle. Regardless of the shame, the boy picks himself up to swallow another wave of mockery until lightning strikes. Thanks to the lightning, the boy absorbs enough energy and gathers it together to release a spherical electromagnetic pulse that sends everyone flying. It all started when an ambulance rushed a pregnant woman to hospital for an emergency C-section. After the surgery, the doctor informs the woman's husband that not only did his wife die, but his baby had also developed an abnormality due to the trauma his wife had experienced. Refusing to accept that his child is abnormal, the baby's father asks the doctor to take his child. In the pediatric ward, the father watches his newborn struggling while a machine measures his brain waves. The sight of the struggling child makes the father tremble in fear as he insists that the baby cannot be his.
That's not my son.
Years later, Jesse, a special ed teacher, alongside Doug, the town sheriff, walks into a basement and sees a boy hiding in the darkness. Realizing that the boy is hiding because he's scared, Jesse softly talks him into coming out of the darkness. And when he does, Jesse and Doug are dumbfounded to see how unbelievably pale the boy is. After getting over their initial shock, Doug asks the boy for his name, and in response, the boy tells Doug his name is Jeremiah. Now that the boy has warmed up to them, Jesse sends Doug out of the room to carry out a psychic evaluation on Jeremiah. So, while she asks Jeremiah random questions, she realizes that all his life, Jeremiah has been told to hide in the basement because if anyone sees him, they'll most likely ship him to a facility and turn him into a lab rat. The more Jesse talks with Jeremiah, the more she catches on how brilliant he is, and when he recites a chapter from a random book, Jesse realizes Jeremiah has a photogenic brain. Moments later, Jeremiah reluctantly follows Jesse and Doug into Jesse's car. Right after Jesse takes Jeremiah away, Harley, the deputy sheriff, tries to tell Doug that something is off about Jeremiah, but Doug refuses to hear him out. Meanwhile, Jesse takes Jeremiah to a boarding house. Just like Jesse and Doug had reacted to Jeremiah, the house occupants gawk at the pale boy being led into the building. Later that day, the house occupants try to bully Jeremiah over dinner, but Jeremiah doesn't pay them any attention. Seeing Jeremiah's lack of reaction irks John, the bully among the house occupants, so he and his minions approach Jeremiah to bully Jeremiah into giving a reaction.
Why you look like that?
But just like before, Jeremiah gives him nothing. Jeremiah's lack of reaction pisses John off the most. So he seizes Jeremiah's food tray and tells him to take a spoon to copy the humiliation ritual that one of his minions formulates. Rather than doing what John asks of him, Jeremiah rubs his spoon and places it upright. Before John can ask what he's doing, the spoon suddenly attracts all the other spoons across the room to form a pyramid, leaving John and everyone in the lunchroom dumbfounded. The following day, a doctor diagnoses Jeremiah with albinism and full-body alopecia. Right after the doctor leaves, Jesse asks Jeremiah to give school a trial, and per Jesse's request, Jeremiah resumes school the following week, ignoring the multitude staring at him while he walks to class. In his first class, Jeremiah catches the eyes of Lindsay, a random classmate, and Donald, the class teacher, who notices their interaction, uses Lindsay and Jeremiah's connection as a reference to what he's trying to teach. While Donald goes on about the subject of the day, Lindsay turns to take a second glance at Jeremiah. All of a sudden, Donald shuts off the classroom lights to show the class a device, and while the teachers show the class the device triggers Jeremiah's electromagnetic abilities. On cue, the metals around him start moving, but Jeremiah tries to control himself. But instead of controlling the electromagnetic energy, Jeremiah triggers the device. And while the device starts to act out of control, Jeremiah tweaks uncontrollably. Realizing that Jeremiah is tweaking, Lindsay calls Donald's attention, but before Donald can do anything, the device suddenly sends electricity directly into Jeremiah's left chest. And as the whole class watches the current enter Jeremiah's left chest, they all squirm when Jeremiah's right chest returns the current into the device while lifting him. After watching Jeremiah's body act as a conductor for a few seconds, the teacher finally snaps to get a wooden seat, which he uses to smash the device and end the electric flow. Seeing as Jeremiah had collapsed after the device was smashed, Donald goes to check on him, but when he touches Jeremiah, he feels his arm conduct the residual electricity from Jeremiah's body. At the hospital, while Doug listens to the doctor argue with Donald, Jeremiah sneaks out of the hospital to see Lindsay. Seeing as Jeremiah is waiting by the fence for her, Lindsay walks outside to chat about the class incident with Jeremiah. And while they talk, Lindsay calls Jeremiah's attention to the neighbors staring at him. But instead of paying attention to the nosy neighbors, Jeremiah tells Lindsay that he can read minds. Realizing that he might have spooked Lindsay with his confession, Jeremiah asks for directions to the nearest train station, and Lindsay gives them to him before bidding him goodbye while he walks away. Following Lindsay's directions, Jeremiah walks towards the train station. But before he can go far, Doug, alongside Harley, catches up to him and threatens Jeremiah to get into the car. After Doug takes him to the facility, Jeremiah meets up with Jesse, who ushers him into a room where Donald and other doctors are sitting. In the room, while Aaron, the lead doctor, questions Jeremiah about why his report says he's never watched TV, Donald turns on a TV. But it crashes because about the same time, Jeremiah explains that certain devices react a certain way around him. Astonished by Jeremiah's explanation, Donald starts to talk about Jeremiah's brain evaluation, but Aaron interrupts him to inform Jeremiah of his incredibly high IQ. Realizing that Aaron is trying to cozy up to him, Jeremiah ignores him, and Jesse, who senses Jeremiah's discomfort, tells Jeremiah that the doctors are here to help him. Refusing to fall for Jesse's lie, Jeremiah asks if they can take him home, but Jesse tells him no. Hearing this, Jeremiah knows he's stuck in the boarding house, so he ultimately agrees to answer whatever questions they have. Now that Jeremiah has agreed to give answers, Aaron asks random questions, but mid-questioning, Jeremiah points out that he knows that Aaron is looking for loopholes in his answers to confirm his suspicions that he used a trick in the class because he thinks it's unrealistic for a human to conduct such a magnitude of current without dying. Jeremiah's outbursts blow up the devices in the room, but Jeremiah ignores them and demands to be taken home, leaving Aaron to wonder what had happened. Later that night, Jeremiah secludes himself from the group. Doug, who is supposedly in charge of him, approaches Jeremiah to check on him. While they talk, Jeremiah reveals that according to his grandfather, the electromagnetic charge in his brain is the result of his mother getting struck by lightning moments before his birth. The following morning, while Jeremiah is playing with a lizard in the woods, John and Mitch, his sidekick, walk in on Jeremiah and ask him what he's doing in the woods. Instead of providing an answer, Jeremiah redirects John's question back to him. Hearing Jeremiah's redirected question pisses John off, so he flashes his gun and aims it at Jeremiah. Seeing this, Mitch gets scared and tries asking John to drop the gun. Unfortunately, John refuses and dares Jeremiah to use his powers to save himself. Right before John pulls the trigger, another gunshot distracts them.
Come on, John!
So John lets go of his aim to check it out. Refusing to be blindsided, Jeremiah follows John and Mitch to check the source of the gunshot, only for him to walk in on the boys hyping up Harley for shooting a deer. Seeing the deer struggle on the ground ignites anger in Jeremiah, so he finds himself staring hard at the deer on the ground. Noticing Jeremiah staring the deer down, Harley, who is aware of the punishment that comes with shooting at the facility, tries to bully Jeremiah into keeping his mouth shut. But instead of trembling at Harley's words, Jeremiah suddenly holds the deer and grabs his arm. All of a sudden, Harley feels a painful shockwave in his heart, and before anyone realizes what is happening, Harley drops to the floor, crying. Seeing Jeremiah maintain his grip despite Harley's cries, John aims his gun at Jeremiah, and despite Mitch redirecting the shot, Jeremiah lets go of Harley. Later, Jesse and Doug question Jeremiah about what went down in the woods. In response, Jeremiah explains that he wanted Harley to realize the pain he caused the deer. Right after hearing Jeremiah's response, Doug lets him know he's disappointed before leaving to return to the station. As soon as the sheriff leaves the room, Jeremiah demands Jesse take him home. But when Jesse tries to make an excuse for why she can't, Jeremiah's emotions trigger destruction in the room while he accuses Jesse of pretending to be his friend. After his outburst, Jeremiah hides in the cafeteria to cool off, but while he's cooling off, Donald approaches him and offers to be Jeremiah's friend, but Jeremiah refuses. Regardless of Jeremiah's refusal, Donald stretches forth his hand, and this time, Jeremiah takes it. While Jeremiah holds Donald, he plays electromagnetic tricks on Donald's hair, but after letting go of Donald's hand, Jeremiah confesses that his grandparents were scared to touch him. Hearing this makes Donald reach out to touch Jeremiah's face, and the little interaction makes Jeremiah shed tears over finally meeting someone who doesn't regard him as an untouchable freak. The following day, Doug confronts Harley about his run-in with Jeremiah, And when Harley tells Doug about how Jeremiah's grabbing his hand made his heart shake as if the pain of the deer had been transferred onto him, Doug considers the credibility of Harley's claims. Choosing to believe Harley's claims, Doug takes Jeremiah into his house and asks him to act as an intermediary between him and his sick wife, as he did to Harley and the deer. And after Jeremiah relays all of his wife's dying wishes and brings Doug to tears, Doug hugs her to say his final goodbyes. The next morning, while talking to Lindsay, Jeremiah allows Lindsay to feel his pulse. While Lindsay does, she asks random questions. But when she gets to the topic of how his father shamed him for his appearance, Jeremiah lets go of her and turns away. Recovering from his initial response, Jeremiah asks Lindsay if she agrees with his father, and right after implying that she doesn't, Lindsay kisses him. The kiss excites Jeremiah, so he goes in for more, but unfortunately for him, Lindsay's father breaks them apart. Out of annoyance, Lindsay's father grabs Jeremiah's clothes and curses him out loud enough to catch Lindsay's attention, who comes over to break the fight off. After the incident, Jeremiah decides it's time to go home, so he packs up his stuff to leave. But before he leaves, he stops by the gym before leaving. In the gym, Jeremiah gets carried away while he watches a boy stripping in the toilet. And unfortunately for him, John catches him looking, so he curses him out right before stealing Jeremiah's cap. Instead of Jeremiah trembling at John's feet, Jeremiah reminds John abusive childhood, so out of annoyance, John shoves Jeremiah to the wall before dragging him outside. Outside, John strips and kicks him into a puddle. And while John and his minions mock Jeremiah, lightning strikes, and Jeremiah uses its energy to create a spherical electromagnetic field that blasts everyone away. When the boys recover from the blast, they realize that John's heart has stopped beating. Refusing to let John die, Jeremiah uses an electric shock-like defibrillator to revive John. After John wakes, Jeremiah sneaks out of the boarding house. When Jeremiah finally reaches home, he realizes that the cops have taken all his property from the basement. Later on, Jessie arrives at the house and goes straight into the basement to console Jeremiah about his empty house. But while she consoles him, Donald pops out of nowhere to suggest they sneak Jeremiah out of town before the cops catch on. But before they leave, Doug, alongside Harley, arrives at the house to stop them, but Jessie and Donald convince Doug. And even though Harley doesn't agree with Doug's decision, Doug and the others listen to Jeremiah's speech about freedom before he suddenly begins running towards lightning. As he runs, Harley and the others chase after him, but before they can reach him, the lightning strikes him. And right after the lightning creates an electromagnetic reaction, Jeremiah is sucked into the clouds, while the others watch proudly. Despite Jessie's and Donald's attempt to shield him, Jeremiah chose to let go of his crush on Lindsay and become one with the clouds. Now that Jeremiah has been absorbed into the clouds, how do you think Lindsay will react when the news reaches her? Would she cry, or would she smile approvingly at his decision? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Until next time, guys. Peace.